The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Yes. And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us. Show number 3, January 8th, 2024. So much to do. So many people to talk to. Got a Fordham tinge to it today. We have Mike Breen on. We have John Giannone of MSG on. We have Mike Lupica on his regular Wednesday segment. He's not from Fordham, but a Jesuit college. He went to BC. So we're locked and loaded. Now, one thing I wanted to tell you about the show, this is only the third show. And what we want to do on this show is we want to have a lot more conversations with you. So we want to take more phone calls than we used to in the old show, because with the old show, it's hard to take phone calls and take a lot of them because you get 3 people that are giving their opinions on everything. Now it's just you and me, baby, going back and forth. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want to hear. I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what I think you want to hear. You know the number. I'll give it to you just in case. 1-800-919-3776. But that is going to be a big part of this show, is me conversing with you. And I think that's the thing that separates sports talk radio from what's very popular now, and that's individual podcasts. Podcasts are great. They're not live. Radio is live. So you can actually take a phone call and you talk about what you're talking about. Podcast, you can't. We're the one last remaining town hall. So let's do it. Let's take advantage of that. All right, we're going to start off with this. Rex Ryan interviewed with the Jets yesterday in Woody Johnson's palatial estate in Florida. And it seems to be gaining some steam that Rex Ryan has a chance to regain the Jet job. Now, he hasn't been a head coach for almost a decade. And the last time, he spent 2 years in Buffalo and was fired. Now, he had a 6-year run with the Jets. The first 2, he went to the playoffs and went to the AFC Championship game each year. Then he didn't make the playoffs. Then he got fired. Then he got the Buffalo job, 2 years, got fired. And for some reason, people say, you know what? Rex has learned a lot in that decade. And what I'd like to know, how do you know that? The only one who knows if Rex has learned a lot is Rex. So I think people are shape-shifting their own narrative to find out a reason why Rex Ryan should get this job. Because all conventional wisdom would say he shouldn't get the job. First off, he's a defensive coach in an offensive league. Look at the teams that are winning, except for Dan Campbell's Lions. Now, Dan Campbell is a defensive guy, but he has Ben Johnson. Is Rex Ryan going to get a Ben Johnson? And most importantly, if Rex Ryan gets a Ben Johnson type as his offensive coordinator, you think Rex is going to let him play the mad professor with his offense? Or is he going to want to ground and pound, control the clock, keep the score low, win the game with his defense? That's what I'd like to know. But I'm going to morph it into this. I want to hear from Jet fans today. Do you really want this guy back? Now, because I know Rex, we used to have him on every single week when he was the Jet coach. That was part of the gig. And I watch him on TV. He's good on TV. Now, if he's smart, he should just stay on TV. He's opinionated. He's gregarious. He's quick. All of those things. Doesn't mean he'd be a great head coach for the Jets. But for him, for Rex Ryan, a human being, you want people to realize their dreams. And obviously his dream is to be the head coach of the Jets again. For his sake, if he gets it, I'll be happy for him. For the Jets' sake, I don't particularly think it's the right move. But then I keep hearing, we had a couple of phone calls yesterday. I'm a Jet fan. I think I'd love to have him back. And then a guy I love, I mean, when I started as a writer, I worked with Steve Serby at the Post. He's one of the hardest working writers I've ever seen. Tireless. All these years later. He had an interview or a whole column where Joe Beningo says he wants Rex Ryan back. Now, I like Joe Beningo. What difference does it make what Joe Beningo wants? Is that worth a column in the Post? That Joe Beningo wants back Rex Ryan? Who cares? Let Joe say it on the show, but that's a news story? That Joe Beningo wants back Rex Ryan? Which led me to thinking, good organizations don't ever listen to the fans because the fans are emotional. They don't listen to talk show hosts because talk show hosts are emotional. What are we doing? What's the old line that if you listen to the fans, you're going to end up sitting with them? Who cares what the fans want? I understand that they're the customers and you should consider, their opinion, but their opinion should not shape what you know is right and what's wrong. That's why I got to give a little credit to John Mara. John Mara knew that the Giant fans wanted Shane and Dable gone. I mean, for goodness sake, for 2 weekends they rented planes flying across MetLife Stadium telling them they wanted everybody gone. What did John Mara do? He did what he thought was right. He didn't do what the fans wanted. Now, the fans could end up being right, and he could end up being wrong, but you don't follow what the fans say. There's so many instances of that being wrong, of being the wrong thing to do. You got to be out of your mind. Fans are not looking at long-term ramifications. Fans are looking at right now, this moment. And I get it. I get it. Sports talk show host. We're talking about right now, making that emotional statement. Doesn't mean it's good for the organization. Anybody who listens to the fan base is going to have a losing organization. Think about it. How about Yoenis Cespedes? Mets traded for him. They got the best they could out of him. They got to the World Series. Fan base screaming, you got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. So they brought him back. Epic fail. Yankees signed DJ LeMahieu. Wins a batting title with them. Fans, you got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. You got to re-sign him, no matter what the cost is. No matter what the cost. Blank check. They gave him a 6-year contract. How's it working out? How's it working out? Now, I'm not saying that the Yankees followed the fans, but that's certainly what the fans wanted. And if you let fans hire and fire coaches and managers, you're not a good organization. You're a dumb organization. So if you're a Jet fan, I am curious to hear from you whether or not you think that Rex Ryan should be the guy. But under no circumstances should the Jets listen to what the fans want and hire Rex Ryan because the fans want it. No. You hire Rex Ryan because you think it's the best thing for the organization and the long-term viability. Not because you want to throw a bone to the fans. It's stupid. It's momentary. Because I'll tell you this about the fans. They might want Rex Ryan right now. They might. Jets going off to a 1-5 start next year, they're going to be screaming for his head because that's what fans do. And I have the utmost respect for fans because, again, it's about emotion. But running a business is not about emotion. It's about being a tactician. What's good for now and what's good for later. Allocating funds. One more time. You listen to fans, you end up sitting with them. 1-800-919-3776. Now, one quick thing. When we got off the air yesterday, the Raiders ended up firing Antonio Pierce. Again, I think it's folly to fire a coach after 1 year. Now, he had that one interim stint where he's 5-4. Then Devontae Adams and Max Crosby desperately wanted him back. So they signed him. Adams turned on him, gets traded to the Jets. Max Crosby gets hurt. They fire him after this year. 1 year. Another coach who gets 1 year. Joke. The sign of an awful, awful organization, which the Raiders are. So now the big story out there is that Tom Brady is going to have a big say in who the next coach is going to be. Interesting. How is Tom Brady then a broadcaster on Fox? If he's wheeling and dealing and making decisions and within the inner workings of the Raiders, how is he a broadcaster on Fox? And I'm going to say something else about a friend of mine. How is Mike Tannenbaum conducting his business with the Jets as an advisor, setting up these interviews with the coaches, with the Jets and the Johnsons? How is he still on ESPN? How do you do that? How is that allowed? You can't serve two masters like that. If you're part of the decision-making process of the Jets, well, and your employer is ESPN, don't you have the obligation to tell ESPN everything that's going on with the Jets? And it should be broadcast. And if you're Tom Brady and you're interviewing coaches and you do a game this week, don't you have to, dispense that information, at least on the Fox pregame show? What are they paying you $35 million a year for? The lines have been blurred in broadcasting for a while. Different jobs. I get it. I'm one of those guys. But they're not at cross purposes. Being an advisor to the Jets about who's going to be their GM and who's going to be their coach, I think kind of disqualifies you from talking about such things on ESPN and not talking about the Jets. And being a co-owner of the Raiders, where you're going to have a big say on who the next coach is going to be, disqualifies you from being an analyst on games. Because there's already rules in place that he can't even criticize the officials. Imagine that. A football analyst who's doing games, is going to be doing the Super Bowl this year, cannot criticize the officials because he's an owner. It's an NFL rule. So don't you think in a real world that should disqualify him from being on the air? I know that Fox right now has bigger problems than Tom Brady's conflict of interest. I get it. But are we supposed to ignore the elephant in the room? He's going to be picking or playing a big role in picking the coach of the Raiders. And he's going to be announcing the Super Bowl. Okay, I'll play along. 1-800-919-3776. And let's go to the phones. Let's go to Mike in the Bronx to start off. Mikey.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good, what's up?
Glad to hear that you're better. Han, I love you. Let me just start. That's a lot. Rex Ryan, I think he does deserve a do-over.
Why?
Now, why? Because he was a winner.
He lost the last 4 years with the Jets. What did he ever win?
Well, he got them in the playoffs, and it wasn't a great resume of players. You have good players, okay? And he did it with Mark Sanchez.
Who he chose.
The purpose. I think Rex can motivate, and I think Rex has learned a lot in 10 years.
How do you know that?
You do learn a lot from observing and seeing other coaches make mistakes and critiquing other coaches' mistakes.
But you're just surmising, Mike. Well, he probably learned something in 10 years. We don't know what he learned. Now, maybe the Johnsons in their interview with him, he'll tell them what he learned. But I love when people say he was a winner. All right, he got to the AFC Championship game twice. He blew a big lead at halftime to go to the Super Bowl once. The other year, he got in when the Colts pulled Peyton Manning in the second half. And the Jets got in because the Colts gave the game away. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten to the second championship. Then the last 4 years, he didn't. He was submarined by Idzik. I get that. And then failed with the Bills. I think he's a culture changer. I think he's a motivator. But to say he's a winner, what has he won? Because the Jets are such a desperately bad franchise, the fact that he went to the playoffs twice with them makes him a winner? I don't see it. I don't see it. Let's go to Dave in the car. Dave.
Hey, Happy New Year. Congratulations on your new spot, Michael. My first time calling in on your new hour. Everything you said was spot on. Thank you. Everything you said was spot on. I'm glad you're bringing it up. I just wanted to bounce this off of you. Two things. Number one, as soon as I heard Rex Ryan, after several clips of the Jets should be able to win with Rodgers, all of a sudden, a few days ago, he's like, I would end that country club attitude that this guy has. And right away, my first thought was, we're going to lose the Aaron Rodgers show for the Rex Ryan show. That's my one point. My second point is, the teams that are successful, they hire a coach who brings in a system, and they leave him alone. Until the Jets do what Denver did, until the Jets do what the Chargers did, until they do what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done, they will have no success at all. Let me know your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think they gave Sal a little bit of a run. I think he should have gotten this whole year. I think it was folly to fire him at 2 and 3. But this day and age in sports, you don't give people a long run. I mean, what we're seeing with Mike Tomlin is probably never going to happen again. What happened with Bill Belichick, not going to happen again. Now, the Broncos, they took a chance and they hired Sean Payton. And in his second year, he's done exactly what he wanted to do. He drafted Bo Nix. He instituted what he wanted to, changed the culture, and boom, they're in the playoffs. Good for them. And he's got a quarterback, it looks like, for the future. But I mean, if hiring Rex Ryan means you have to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think that's connected. But if it is, so what? What did Aaron Rodgers do for the Jets? Nothing. He gave him agita. That's what he did. Steve in Levittown.
Hey, Michael. Listen, I'm 64 years old. I've been waiting 56 years for this team to win anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I am emotional about it, but I'm trying to be logical. Now, the positives for Rex Ryan for me, is that he loves the Jets. He wants to be here. He wants to bring a winner to this team. Number two, the defense will be good automatically. There won't be 16 penalties against them, and they'll be much better on defense. All right, the negatives. It will be a clown show with Rex. It will be. Number two, he's been out of football for a long, long time. It all depends on the staff that he hires. So, as an older Jet fan that's been waiting so long, I particularly would want Brian Flores, but I want to know what you think about my positives and negatives.
Well, the one positive you bring up, and it's not just you, Steve, a lot of people do it. Well, he loves the Jets. So Mike Greenberg loves the Jets. You're going to hire him as the Jet coach? I mean, that's not the qualification for being the Jet coach. You got to talk to him about schemes and how he's going to handle Rodgers if they bring him back, whether he wants to bring him back, who's going to be your offensive coordinator, what type of offense are you going to run? Is it going to be ground and pound in a league that's about scoring over 35 points a game? That's what you want to know. Not that he loves the Jets. So what? So what? Now, if you ask me, would you want Rex Ryan or would you want Bill Belichick? And Bill Belichick hates the Jets. 10 times out of 10, I'd say, give me Bill Belichick. 10 times out of 10. So, no, I don't buy that at all. Now, as for the Flores thing, boy, I read some stuff about his last days in Miami. Not good. He's obviously a good coach, but he burned a lot of bridges. I read a story yesterday that said if you asked every assistant that worked under him, they'd say, don't do it. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know the inner workings of Brian Flores. I know the work that he's done, obviously, with the Vikings, and they look great, but, boy, you got to dig into what happened there in Miami. Matthew in Connecticut. Matthew.
Hey, Michael. How are you?
Good. How are you, Matt?
Good. Happy New Year.
And the same to you.
Good. I just have a few questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know if your new show will be simulcasting on the Yes Network? And then
at this point, no.
Okay. And then my other question would be to you is, I don't know if you listen to the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast when the Yankees are on it. Do you know what they use to make the audio a lot louder? And I was wondering if they will be doing that for opening day on ESPN.
The audio of the announcers or the audio of the crowd?
The audio of the whole, like the audio of the game. Like it's incredible. Like when Luis Hill threw the ball to Jose Trevino against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball, you could hear the loud like back crack and everything.
Well, I think that the national broadcast, what they do is they mic up the bases, and I don't think a lot of the local broadcasts do that. So I'm sure that ESPN Sunday night games and whatever specialty games they have, they might do that again. I know that Fox does it as well, but that's just miking up the bases. So you have a mic by the bat, and you have the sound of the swoosh when they slide in. Odd phone call. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Vito in Boston. Vito.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
To comment on good. I just wanted to comment on the Rex Ryan thing. This makes the Jets as an organization look very incompetent. You're bringing back the past. If you had just kept him, he'd be in his 15th, 16th year there.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the past wasn't that bad. So it's almost like you're basically taking steps backwards. You're going backwards when you were already there. I think he's definitely a competent coach and everything. Unfortunately, there's just not much to pick from out there. There really isn't much out there.
No, that's not true. Yeah. Vito, that's not true. But here, you can look at it another way, though, Vito. All the jobs that are open right now, every single one of them. Think about it. Rex Ryan has not been asked to interview for any of them, except for this one. You can't say there's not much out there. That's ridiculous. Did anybody know what Sean McVay was before he got a job? You knew he'd been an assistant with the then Redskins, but Shanahan, same deal. There's always brilliant people out there. You go find them. But what other team with an opening has requested an interview with Rex Ryan? I'll wait. What other team? Doesn't that tell you a little something? Doesn't that tell you a little something? If you want to go back to the future, why don't you interview Pete Carroll? He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to two of them. Oh, he's 72, whatever. Pete Carroll has the energy of a 30-year-old. The Bears are interviewing him. And if you're depending so much on Mike Tannenbaum, right? Why'd you ever get rid of Mike Tannenbaum then? Mike Tannenbaum did a good job with the Jets. Brian and Hewlett. Brian.
Hey, Michael K. I got to first say I love the new show. As you would say, it's nude-worthy listening to.
Oh, thank you. I have no clothes on right now, Brian.
No, it's unbelievable. I remember when you tried it out for the first time, when you first went over to 880, and the first time listening to it, it was like right before the holidays. I'm like, man, Michael K. by himself is unbelievable, and you proved it right. Real quick, Michael K., I'll get it to the point. It's just that I think the Jets would be very silly and ignorant to hire Rex Ryan. If you look around the league, we all know that the game is basically favoriting all the offenses. If I'm the Jets, I would go ahead and hire somebody like Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. I would go ahead and even look at Todd Monken from the Ravens. He's also an offensive coordinator, where they should really focus their attention on building the culture, but building it offensively. These teams are scoring like crazy left and right. You see what the Lions can do. You see what the Ravens can do. I'm a Steeler fan, and our biggest complaint is Tomlin just never can get over the hump, and because of the way he likes to play, he recently just said in a press conference that he'd rather run the ball because it's a safer alternative than throwing it. He has a potential Hall of Fame quarterback on his roster with a great first-round draft pick, a foreigner, foreign first-round draft pick, and he actually said that out loud, that he'd rather run the ball because it's safer. I just think.
Well, and you know what? That's how Rex is. And if I could talk to Woody Johnson, and he's not taking the ambassador's not taking my phone calls, but if I could, Ben Johnson's not even going to be interviewed. Why? Are you afraid to be great? Every team worth its salt is going to at least try for Ben Johnson. He's the offensive coordinator of the Lions. A dynamic offense. Now, maybe he's told them through back channels I have no interest. That I can't speak to. But I keep hearing, well, he doesn't fit what they're trying to do. Oh, what? Win? Have a dynamic offense? He doesn't fit. One of the innovative offensive minds in all of football doesn't fit what they're trying to do. So let's go interview our former head coach who hasn't coached in a decade. Let's do that. Let's not try to interview Ben Johnson. Don't get it. Don't get it. Mike Breen is going to join us in just a moment. We'll talk some Knicks and the big ESPN doubleheader tonight. Hey, football fans, buckle up, because for the first time ever, we've got 5 straight days of playoff football in college and the pros. And FanDuel is celebrating with the great playoff payoff. That's a no-sweat, same-game parlay every day for all 5 days. With a no-sweat SGP, you can combine your bets from the same game for a chance at even bigger winnings. And if it doesn't hit, you'll get bonus bets back. So not only do we get to watch 5 straight days of playoff football, but there's also 5 chances to win big. Just visit FanDuel.com/K to be part of this epic run. That's FanDuel.com/K. It's the great playoff payoff, and it's only on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Harry Douglas here for Technique's new noise-canceling True Wireless AZ80 earbuds. Techniques has been revolutionizing the audio game for almost 60 years. With multi-point connection of up to 3 devices at the same time, the AZ80s let you go from leading a meeting to listening to a podcast to taking a call seamlessly. Visit us.techniques.com/sports to shop for AZ80s now. That's us.technics.com/sports.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, tonight, ESPN features an NBA doubleheader beginning at 7. It's a battle between the top 2 teams in the NBA. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then at 9:30, it's the Spurs visiting Milwaukee and Giannis Antetokounmpo's Milwaukee Bucks. So a great doubleheader in the NBA, and it will be on ESPN tonight. And also tonight, the Knicks against Toronto at the Garden as they try to snap a 3-game losing streak. Well, Mike Breen is going to be doing the game in Cleveland between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he joins us now on the show. Hi, Mike.
So how's it going, the new time slot?
The time slot's great. It's a little getting used to. You know, you're lonely. You're kind of like talking to yourself. But I like it, and people are responding, and I'm glad that you could join me.
All right, how has it changed your personal life, like in terms of you getting up earlier? You're not watching the soap operas now. I mean, what's going on?
I don't watch soap operas anymore. I used to watch The Young and Restless, but I get up early all the time to walk the kids to the bus. And the thing that's the best part is that I get off the air at 3, and then I meet the kids at the bus when they get off from school. So I get to see them a lot more.
All right. How far is the bus from your front door?
Let's say 30 yards.
So you're not walking them to the bus?
Of course I am.
The bus is right there. It's picking you up at the house.
No, but you don't just open the door. You have to walk the 30 yards in freezing cold. And it's nice to
On
hand them
freezing
off
cold,
to the
you're
boss.
not just opening the door and say, "Hey, kids, go ahead. We'll see you later."
No. I think you could do that with Callie at 12, and I don't think you could do that with Charlie at 10.
Charlie's what a great kid.
You like
So is
Charlie more
Callie.
than Callie. I know it, right?
No, not at all.
Yes,
Charlie and I have
it's true.
bonded.
He does like Uncle Mike. So he's excited. He's excited because he could see you tonight. So he'll be watching.
Oh, good.
We'll be watching
All right.
together. Let's start with the Knicks, though, Mike. Every time the Knicks go into any kind of losing streak, he doesn't play his bench enough. And I think it's kind of nonsensical. I don't think the Knicks bench is where they want it to be until Mitchell Robinson gets back. But I don't think that's the issue. I just think you can't keep up the pace that you had in December. What's your feel on this?
You do need during the regular season. You need a good bench that you can rely on, and especially like, for example, a player like a Jalen Brunson, who the ball's in his hands so much. He has so much responsibility up there and he's being played as physical as I've seen him since he's been in the league, and certainly since he's been in New York. So you have to have somebody like a Deuce McBride who in and gives good solid minutes. And then there are stretches in the schedule, and this is what the latest stretch was, where they were on the road a lot.
Right.
They played more road games than anybody in the league early, and some funky road trips. And just recently, last week, that Oklahoma City to Chicago back-to-back, that's not easy. And then you add to that the amount of minutes that they're playing, and they were tired. There's no question they're tired. But if you look at the minutes, I always get a kick out of this. Look at the minutes now in the NBA and go back like 15 years. Everybody was playing more than what the Knicks are playing now. And even this year, I mean, Nikola Jokic is playing huge minutes. Jason Tatum, Devin Booker. And nobody's yelling at Mike Malone. You play Jokic that many minutes, you gotta cut him back. It's just the key is the players, if they're in shape, if they're conditioned properly. And the other thing too, and actually Isaiah Hartenstein just mentioned this when the Knicks played the Thunder last week. He said what people don't understand is that they don't go hard in practice anymore, and sometimes they don't even practice. So if you're playing guys big minutes, you're not going to have them practice. So I think it's just a talking point that comes up, as you say, when every time they play the bench more. There are some nights he probably should play the bench more. But these guys that he's playing this many minutes right now, that's his best chance to win. And I don't think he's running them into the ground by any stretch. They're all ready to play. They all want to play as many minutes as they possibly can.
But the thing that gets me, Mike, and it really aggravates me, is the fans keep saying the bench, the bench, the bench. And then most people hate the fact of load management where you don't even know who's going to play anytime you go to an NBA game. But when you watch the Knicks play and you buy a ticket to the Garden, or even when they're on the road, you know that their best players are going to play. I mean, what do you want? Do you want them to play their players or not? So, I mean, he doesn't do the Kawhi Leonard stuff. He doesn't do that, Tom Thibodeau. That's not the type of coach he is. So either you hire a Tom Thibodeau and let him coach the way he wants, or then do the whole load management nonsense, which I think is bad for sports.
Yeah, and there again, a lot depends on what the schedule is. There are certain times in the schedule where, you've got to play more guys. Plus, you want to see some of the guys how they react in a game early in the season. So maybe they can gain a little confidence and play later on. But right now they're not ready for those roles. And right now they're fighting tooth and nail to get as good a record and better playoff position as possible. And their starting five is amazing, and their starting five needed time as well to gel and to mesh with two new starters. So I mean, it's a good fun topic to talk about when they lose a couple, but nobody says a word when they win 9 in a row.
Right. Do you think Cat's been better than you could have imagined?
Yes. Offensively, I didn't think he had this kind of a complete game. And when I say that, it's obviously he can post up. We knew he can shoot threes. I didn't know he was this. His ball handling was this good, where he can take a defender off the dribble. I didn't know his passing was this good, and it just goes to show you where he was out of Minnesota. So Gobert comes in, and his rebounding numbers go down. Anthony Edwards becomes a star, and his points per game numbers go down. And he doesn't say a word because all he wants to do is win. He wanted to get them, and they got to the Western Conference Finals last year. And that's one of the things that stands out to me about him this year is it really is. Every player says, I just want to win. He plays accordingly. There are some games where he's not even looking for a shot if somebody else is hot. There are some games where he dominates. He just wants to be a part of a team that wins the whole damn thing. And that's what's, not that it surprised me, but it's so fun to see him with this kind of attitude. But his offensive game is more varied than I thought.
They gave up 5 first-round draft picks to get Bridges. At the beginning, he looked a little sluggish, and you started to wonder, was that an overpay? But I'm watching him, Mike, and he looks like the player that everybody thought he was going to be. What have you thought of his play so far?
Yeah, he just needed time to get in some kind of comfort zone. And we mentioned this the other night on the air on MSG that he played 2 different roles in his career. He was the Phoenix Suns' Mikal Bridges, who was a terrific role player and could really concentrate on defense and occasionally hit some shots and had some big games when called upon. And then he was the Brooklyn Nets' Mikal Bridges, where he was the number one option night in and night out. And he had to figure out a way with his new team, with the Knicks, that some nights he's going to play more of a role and some nights he's going to be the featured guy. And that requires a player getting in the rhythm, because some nights the shots aren't going to be there. Other nights it's easy to get into a flow because you take 8 shots in the first quarter. So it just took him a little bit of time. And you see now he's such a good player. And he wants to fit in with the team. And that's the beauty of this team, is that they play for each other and they play to win. If they score 8 points one night and 28 the next, it doesn't matter to them. It has zero impact on terms of their joy and happiness of what's going on with the team.
How important, Mike, is it to get Mitchell Robinson back?
I think that would make just an enormous difference. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. And before he got hurt last year, he had played the best basketball overall that I've ever seen from him. The key has always been, can he stay healthy? He's had a couple of good years where he played a lot of games, but it's been hard for him. But to me, he makes all the difference in the world. And I would love to see him and Towns play together. And I'd love to see him play and Towns get a little rest. Because Robinson is a game changer defensively, and he's a game changer in terms of offensive rebounds and lobs. He became so adept at that as well, and that completely changes. That helps Jalen Brunson. When Brunson penetrates, the defender sometimes is hesitant to leave Robinson because Brunson's going to throw him a lob for an easy dunk. So it makes a difference in a lot of different ways, and hopefully he's going to get back because he's an impact player.
See, I was wondering, you said maybe play the 2 of them together. What the configuration would be at the start? Do you think that would push Hart to the bench? Would they go big with the 2 guys in the starting lineup, or they bring Mitchell Robinson off the bench?
I don't know because Tom Thibodeau hasn't said yet. It's just a guess, but I think especially to start, he's going to come off the bench. Towns is playing at such an incredible level at the 5. You don't want to mess with that. I mean, He's playing offensively as good as anybody, and you don't want to mess with that. So my guess is he would come off the bench.
The NBA season's so long. All these sports seasons are long. I would think that, you do so many games, Mike. A game like tonight, the Cavaliers and the Thunder, you have to be pumped up for this. This has the potential to be an awesome watch.
I can't remember the last time I was this fired up for a regular season game in early January. And especially because, for example, I was fired up for Christmas Day to see LeBron and Curry battle again. It's always fun. But because these are 2 up-and-coming teams that are so good, that are clearly better than everybody else playing right now, and they haven't received, I don't think, the proper recognition of how good, because they haven't proved it yet in the playoffs, especially Cleveland. But they're playing at historic levels. They're winning by margins that are amongst the best in the history of the NBA. And they're making, it seems like every night they're setting some kind of franchise record. And the beauty of it is, and obviously Gilgeous Alexander is the main guy and the star, and he's a superstar now. But the beauty of it is both teams rely on so many players. It's great team basketball. It's two teams that share the ball. It's two teams that get after you defensively. I can't wait. I am fired up, yes.
Have you taken your pregame nap yet?
No. And it might be shortened depending on how long this interview goes.
Oh, it's going to end right now. But I do want to know, we're talking with Mike Breen of the MSG Network and ESPN. Is it better, doing the interview without Don and Peter chirping in? Because you've always told me you didn't like them that much.
No, I want you to right now say that I never said that.
He never said that.
Thank you. The last interview, I got mad at Don because he asked me a question and I answered it, and he said, "I don't believe you."
Oh, he does that a lot. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. But I do miss them, and I will listen to them as well because they're with somebody who I think is terrific, in Alan Hahn.
See, you're a good teammate, but you're a better friend.
It's very kind of you to say.
Well, you know how I feel about you. Anyway, have a great game, have a good nap, and we'll be watching tonight. Should be great.
All right, Michael. See you.
All right, thank you. That's Mike Breen tonight, ESPN. NBA doubleheader beginning at 7. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then at 9:30, the San Antonio Spurs visit Milwaukee to meet the Bucks. All right, when we come back, we've got a little hit and run action. But first, it may be the offseason, but every season is Bigelow Tea season. Now, I'm picky about what I drink, especially in days I have a show. Now, one of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow Tea. I love the different flavor options. It's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. You want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow Tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow Tea. Tea proudly. Bigelow Tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Smith's for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Smith's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. This is Hit and Run.
Oh, yeah, it's so popular. Just 3 shows in, people talking about it all over the country. Here we go. I watched the Duke game yesterday. Duke against Pittsburgh. They blew them out. Pittsburgh scores a lot. Not against Duke. Duke can really defend. Cooper Flagg is the real deal. First time I really got an extended look at him. 18 years old, 6'9", an unbelievable thunderous dunk that he had. You could see the skills. He's there for 1 year. And you know what? Duke has a chance to win a national championship. That's how good their defense is. That's how good he is. St. John's won yesterday. They beat Xavier. They're 13-3. They're 4-1 in the Big East. But there's one problem with St. John's. I just want you all to put this in the memory bank, everybody. They can't really shoot threes. Now, basketball is now a sport that's predicated on your ability to shoot threes. They don't shoot them. It's strange because Rick Pitino is just such a great coach, but he did not recruit a team that shoots threes. So I think that that's going to end up hurting them somewhere down the line in a big game where the other team's getting 3 and they're getting 2. So it's kind of odd that he would put together a team that doesn't shoot threes that well. Justin Verlander signs a 1-year deal with the San Francisco Giants. He's 42 years old. Last 7 starts, he had an 8.10 ERA last year. So a little bit of a reach for them, but I see bringing in a veteran guy. Also interesting, with his $15 million, his career earnings are just a smidge over $410 million. The only other player who earned more in his career was A-Rod with $4.55 million. But you know, Juan Soto is going to say, hold my beer. Speaking of the Mets, they are talking with Alex Verdugo. Verdugo is a nicer guy than I thought he was going to be. Very engaging, great with the media. Teammates seemed like they liked him, but he didn't do as much offensively as I thought he was going to do. I thought he was a disappointment at the plate. He plays a very good left field, but he left me wanting more offensively. I think that was the same thing with the Yankees. Mick Cronin is the head coach of the UCLA Bruins, and they didn't play well yesterday. And he went up and in on his players that you don't see coaches or managers do here in 2025. Listen to what Mick Cronin said about his UCLA team.
We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win. It's crazy. And it's every day. I'm tired of it. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I mean, I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. I mean, it's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody in. That's the problem. So what the truth of it is, Ben, it's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
Wow. Interesting strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out. That doesn't happen today. People don't call out players. People coddle players. He called them out. Let's see if it works out. Let's see if they respond or if they say, oh, yeah? And they completely quit on him. He called them soft and delusional. Wow. Tell me the last time a coach did that or a manager. Doesn't happen. You know what today would have been? Or it is. Elvis Presley would have been 90 years old today. How much would you have paid to see Elvis at 90? Would he still be performing? What would he look like? Would he still be cool? I think he stopped being cool once, he morphed into the late Elvis. But I don't mean dead Elvis. I mean the later years. But 90 years old he would have been. Tom Pelissero does a good job with the NFL Network. Said that teams have inquired about Bill Belichick for their openings in the NFL. Think about that. I continue to wonder, and I wondered when it happened, why did Bill Belichick take the North Carolina job? Because we just felt that he probably had intel that there was no way that he was going to get another NFL job. Well, now Pelissero reporting that Brady has even reached out to him about the Raider position. Now, Bill Belichick, whether he denies it or not, wants those wins to pass Don Shula, who called them Belichick. Bill does not forget. Would he leave North Carolina before he even coaches a game? Think about that, how unbelievable that would be. I never understood why he didn't get a sniff last year, and I wonder the way the season went for the Atlanta Falcons, if they actually regret not hiring him. That might have been his best chance. So teams are reaching out to Belichick. Is he saying no? Is he not taking those phone calls? Is he entertaining those calls? To me, it's fascinating. And Nolan Arenado, third baseman for the Cardinals. Cardinals want to trade him. He wants to be traded. And he has a no-trade clause. Now, the Cardinals don't want to eat any of the money that they owe him, which is a lot. 3 more years at about $75 million. That's rounding off. And Arenado might be stuck on the Cardinals again, on a team that's not going to try to win, that's cutting payroll, that if they don't trade Arenado, they might have to trade one of their pitchers that they don't want to trade just to shed money. And the one thing I'd ask Nolan, who I think is still a plus defender at third, they had a deal with the Astros. They had to deal with the Astros. And he vetoed it. Why? Arenado, 3 years in that ballpark, the power would come back. He'd have a chance to win. They always put a competitive team on the field. Why did he turn that down? Why did he turn that down? I think he's going to regret that. I really do. I think he's going to end up regretting it. So that is Hit and Run for show number 3 here on January 8th, 2025. We got a big second hour coming up. John Giano, my good friend and MSG's very own, revealed something on the air yesterday that I was just so proud of him. I really was. And we'll talk about it in just a moment. And then Mike Lupica, his first appearance on the new iteration of the Michael K. Show. That'll be at 2:30. So we have a lot to do. More of your phone calls as well. 1-800-919-3776. It's me and you on 880 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This is the Michael K. Show podcast.
I gotta get more K.
Listen live weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN, the ESPN New York app, and your smart speaker.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Michael K. Show. So Mel Kiper Jr. was on Unsportsmanlike, our national morning show on ESPN Radio, and he was asked about the Giants, who have the number 3 pick in the draft. Now, the two teams in front of the Giants need quarterbacks. And from every way you slice it, it looks like there are 2 quarterbacks worthy to be at the top of the draft, or at least in this draft. In other drafts, they might not even be near the top of the draft, but they're the 2 best quarterbacks. So it looks like the Titans and the Browns might take them, which would leave the Giants without a quarterback. So Kiper was asked on Unsportsmanlike, would you trade, if you're the Giants, the number 3 pick to the Vikings for J.J. McCarthy? And here's what he said.
Yes. From the Vikings, I'm letting this all play out because you got a 27-year-old Sam Darnold look really good for O'Connell. If he goes through the playoffs and playing really well, Sam Darnold's your quarterback, then you could potentially look at trading J.J.
Now, I love Mel Kiper, and I think he's the best at what he does. But I would ask this. The Giants had the 6th pick last year. J.J. McCarthy was right there. They needed a quarterback. They had already fallen out of love with Daniel Jones. They were looking to draft Drake May. They were trying to trade up and get the Patriots to give them that 3rd pick to pick Drake May. They didn't even think about taking J.J. McCarthy. Now they ended up getting Malik Neighbors, who looks like he could be a generational talent in terms of a wide receiver. But they needed a quarterback more than they needed a wide receiver. And J.J. McCarthy was sitting there, and they didn't take him. So now they'd give up the 3rd pick in the draft for J.J. McCarthy, who just had major knee surgery. I don't know if I would do it. I don't know if I would do it now. What a home run for the Vikings. Now, everybody seems to think, well, the Vikings are definitely going to entertain trading J.J. McCarthy because Sam Darnold did so great. Well, let's pump the brakes for just 1 second. In the biggest game of the year, Sam Darnold was not good on Sunday night against the Lions. In fact, he was bad. He looked awful. Let's see how he does in the first playoff game. Let's see how he does in the playoffs. But remember one thing, he's a free agent. Now, there are a couple of ways that they could go with this. They could franchise tag him, so he's going to make about $40 million against the cap for 1 year. And they could just kick that can down the road. Or they could sign him to a long-term deal where he might make more than $40 million a year. Or they could stay with J.J. McCarthy, who they really liked, and he was going to be their starting quarterback. They had a competition set up with Sam Darnold, but it was kind of laid out there that J.J. McCarthy was going to start this year. That's how much they liked him. So if you're the Vikings and you have all this money invested in Justin Jefferson, rightfully so, wouldn't you rather have a quarterback who would be cost-effective for the next 4 years if you really believe in him? Now, you did a lot of work, obviously, with Sam Darnold to put him to that position, but you're going to have to spend a lot more money on Sam Darnold than you are going to spend on J.J. McCarthy over the next 4 years. So, yeah, you get the third pick, but what does that mean for the Vikings? What does it exactly mean for the Vikings? 1-800-919-3776. Knicks and Toronto tonight. Knicks have lost 3 in a row. I have no panic whatsoever. You just heard from Mike Breen in the 1 o'clock hour. Toronto 1-15 on the road, 8-28 overall. This game's at the Garden. If they lose this one, I'd get a little bit nervous. Still not panicky, but you got to snap your 3-game losing streak against the Raptors tonight. We're going to have John Giannone in a couple of minutes. Let's take a couple of phone calls before we get to him. Bill in Passaic. Bill, you're on the show.
Hey, it's Joe from Passaic.
What was the first name?
Hello?
Hello?
Dove, D-O-V.
Oh, okay.
Dove.
Well, welcome to the show.
How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. I love the new show. Hit and Run is a big hit with me. And I just wanted to say something about Luis Arise.
Okay.
I think the only way it makes sense is that Stan is almost definitely going to be on the IL. He's going to miss time. So they might be thinking maybe of putting him in as a DH when he's hurt, because he doesn't have a lot of stamina. What do you think?
Well, I don't think you make a trade for Luis Arise planning to play him the 40 games that Stan might be hurt. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that if they got Luis Arise, he'd be their second baseman, and they'd bite the bullet and take the bad defense and take the 325 batting average. But you don't get a 2-time batting champion in the event that Stanton gets hurt. So if it follows through with what's been going on over the last couple of years and Stanton's hurt, usually he's hurt for about 40 games. You're not getting Luis Arise for 40 games. Doesn't make sense. Lance in New Jersey. Lance.
What's going on, Mike? How are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. First-time caller. Listen, I'm 50 years old, man. Live in Jersey, been a resident of Jersey. I'm hearing the Jets, complain about their team. I'm a Raiders fan, man. There's nobody more dysfunctional, than us. So my question to you is, do you see the reality of Brady walking away from broadcasting and taking over the team? And how realistic is it that we get a decent quarterback? It is this team turning around in the next couple of years. Thanks for the call.
I don't know if Brady's going to walk away. I'm doing air quotes right now, but I think he might be forced to, because it doesn't make sense for him to have a big say in hiring the head coach, which reportedly he's going to, and then being the lead broadcaster on Fox. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. But I think he's going to play a large role. I don't think he's going to take over the team. I don't think he's going to be the GM. I mean, they've got a GM. They didn't fire their GM when they got rid of Pierce. So, no. I don't think he's going to walk away from the $37.5 million a year with the Raiders. He might be forced to go. With Fox, he might be forced to go, but I don't think he's going to voluntarily do it. I just don't think it's a realistic fit. Now, yesterday, John Giannone on the Rangers broadcast revealed that he is battling a health problem. Now, ironically enough, I was having dinner with John on Saturday. We went to the Fordham game, and he had told me this privately. And when he revealed this on the air, I was so proud of him because I thought he handled it so amazingly well. And I wanted to get him on today because I think he showed incredible bravery to do that. And here is my longtime friend. And I've always said, I look at him as the brother that I never had. Here is John Giannone of the MSG Network. Hey, John, how you doing?
Michael, thank you so much, buddy. I could say that in the 40 years we've known each other, that might have been the first time I showed the level of bravery that you're claiming I showed last night.
Well, you know what? It took a tough guy to do that, and you did it, and you didn't really You didn't crack on the air at all. So for those that didn't see it, John, why don't you tell the listeners exactly what you had said last night?
Right. So to set it up, last night was the 27th annual Hockey Fights Cancer Night, which is an initiative between the NHL and all of its teams to raise awareness and support, and in some cases, donations for cancer. And the Rangers do a wonderful job with it every year. And this year, when I was told it was January 7th, and I was told that probably around December 10th, I put two and two together because exactly a month ago yesterday is when I had discovered that my diagnosis through a biopsy and an MRI was that I had stage 1 prostate cancer. So I kind of thought about it over a couple of weeks, and I thought maybe that would be the right platform to at least use the stage that I have there and the voice that I have there to help to raise awareness and to raise support and explain the importance of it all. So that's what I did on the air. It was during our pregame show, and then chatted about it a bit during the game itself. And I sort of just felt like maybe by speaking of it more personally and in the first person, and as somebody who could speak to it firsthand, it would lend a little bit more importance to the idea of early detection. Because mine came up, Mike, as I described it yesterday, during a routine yearly physical. It was just something that came up. They took a PSA test, which is a blood test that checks specifically for the prostate, and my number doubled in a year. And as my doctor described to me at the time, it's like the warning light came on in your car. So that led to a follow-up MRI, which led to a follow-up biopsy, which led to a diagnosis.
When you hear those words, John, I mean, are you absolutely terrified?
I will say this, it's a jolt to the system, and the sheer mechanics of it are what's interesting as well, because I had the biopsy on December 3rd, and on December 7th, in my patient portal online, was the results. Now, my discussion, my follow-up visit with my doctor was on the 17th. So there was about a 10-day gap between when I saw the words prostatic adenocarcinoma and when I actually chatted with my doctor about what we were going to do about it.
Oh.
So in those 10 days, there's a lot going on in your mind, and Dr. Google is making a whole lot more appearance than he should, to be honest with you. So by the time I had the discussion on the 17th, I was pretty well versed in what I had, but I wasn't quite sure what the course of action was going to be. So in my mind, it's, okay, I'm going to either have a full prostatectomy or some sort of radiation treatment. But at the end of the day, the discussion was more about, let's do active surveillance since it's stage 1, considered to be low risk. They're going to do a couple more tests over the next month to see if my genetic makeup makes it more susceptible to being a higher risk of cancer. But basically, for now, it's going to be follow-up blood tests every couple months and a biopsy every year, and we'll chart the potential growth and spread and then react accordingly.
You know, it's funny you brought that up just as an aside. The patient portal, to me, it's brutal. It's brutal. So I go for a physical every single year, and then you get all the results, and you're sitting there, and you don't know what it means and what to be scared about, and you're looking at these results and things like that. It's crazy. Don't show me that until the doctor talks to me.
I understand. I can hear from the tone of your voice it is bothersome. I will say this, when you see the words in print, like, okay, carcinoma, that's definitely cancer. You're still doing Google searches for what exactly it is.
Right.
But then when he talks to you and the first thing he says is, okay, John, so in case you didn't see your portal, you do have cancer. I think that would have been more of a jolt or jarring to me than having seen it first. I was thankful that I found out earlier rather than later, because I still think you take the biopsy, which in itself is a very intrusive procedure, and then you sit on it for 2 weeks before you find out. I was glad I found out in 3 or 4 days.
Right.
But yes, those 10 days of waiting to find out next courses of action were definitely a challenge.
And not to get too preachy here on the show, we're trying to have some fun, but we also want to illuminate. Listen, if insurance would cover it, John, you know me. I mean, we've known each other 40 years. I'd have a physical every day. But, you have it once a year. You should have that blood test. I mean, this is something, because it was caught early, you've told me, and you said it on the air yesterday, the prognosis is very, very good. If you sit back and you don't do these things for 5 or 6 years, it doesn't make sense. Just get it done.
Right. So the way it's been told to me, Mike, is that it's one of the slowest growing and slowest moving cancers once you have it. The doctor said to me, there's almost as good a chance that I could be 91. I'm 61 now. I could be 91 and have it be exactly the same way as it is now, as it could next year or 2 years, possibly see a spread to where something more would have to be done. But yes, I would recommend to every man from the age of 40, or if you have it in your family even earlier, to just get a yearly test. It's a 3-second exam in the doctor's office, but then it's a 5-minute procedure when you get your yearly blood work done. And something as simple as a blood test, in my case, I was 4.0, which is right on the margin of let's take a closer look at it and it's okay. And in 1 year, it went to 8.2. So when they see something like that, that's when you go to next steps. If I had not done anything for 5 years because I thought 4.0 was safe, 5 years from now, this could be a whole lot worse. And yes, that would have been, in my mind, an unnecessary put off of something that's a very simple procedure.
Well, I hope when you're 91 that I'm 94 and we're sitting there talking about it and it's still at the same number and it didn't progress at all. That, that's my best hope for this happening. So I'm just, it takes a lot to reveal yourself like that on the air. And the way you did it was just, it was with such, class and grace and stuff like that. And you didn't get too emotional or anything like that. You told your story. And I think a story like that does save a lot of people. It really does. So kudos to you, my friend. I thought it was great.
Thank you. That was precisely the reason why I wanted to do it. I did go over it quite a bit in my mind and on paper about what I wanted to say. It was fairly extemporaneous in that there was no teleprompter or no cue cards or anything. So I did want to speak from the heart, but I also didn't want it to come off either as preachy or as an empathy grab. But I did want to basically get into the whole concept of why it was important for me to do what I did, and then to make sure I thank the people who are so instrumental in ensuring your health. And like I said, Steve Allicat was front and center from minute one. And I did tell him beforehand that I was going to say it on the air. He got emotional then. He did well to keep his emotions in check when we were on the air live. But he advocated for the expediency of my procedures right from the start. Literally, he said, give me 10 minutes. And then he came back and said, you're going to see a doctor in a week. And when you have that kind of support and that kind of advocacy, it goes a long way in helping you feel better about what ultimately is the prognosis.
Again, proud of you, buddy, and I only wish great things for you. Let me just, while we have you here, a lot of people are looking at the negatives about the Rangers. And yesterday they got off to a great start against a good team, and then they ended up losing in overtime. They got a point. But of late, John, I see them playing better than they had played for the last month or so. Do you see some positives?
Yeah, like I said on the pregame show last night, the light at the end of the tunnel for the goalie walking out last night were both the electricity of the Garden, but also, figuratively, a glimmer of hope. Sure, as Peter Laviolette said, they haven't played nearly where they felt like they should for most of this year. But the positive of it is the offense is starting to come around. The players who have been snake bitten or haven't played up to the back of their hockey card, so to speak, are starting to do that. The positive to me is tomorrow is the midpoint of the season. That's 41 games. Tomorrow they're expecting to have Igor Shesterkin back in net. He's the guy who clearly they're putting the weight of the franchise behind for the next not only 6 months, but next 7 or 8 years. If he plays to his potential, they're 4 points out of a playoff spot. Nobody in the area around where the Rangers are right now are going to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. They just aren't good enough. In my opinion, having seen what I've seen from basically the same core as last year, 6 games from a cup victory, this team is the one that I think could emerge from the pack. So if in these next 41 games, they rediscover even some of the mojo that made them President's Trophy champions last year, then I do see a playoff bid for them still. I really do.
John, awesome stuff. Again, congratulations for the way you handled yesterday, and prayers with you and all that, and I'm always here for you as well, but thank you for popping on with us.
Mike, I love you for the support, buddy. Thank you.
You got it. That's John Giannone of the MSG Network, and again, we're going to not use these 2 hours each day to preach. I think sometimes that that creates kind of a division between what you came here for and what we're here for, which is to entertain, make you smile, make you think, stuff like that. But it's just a quick blood test, and it could save your life. So thank God that John had the physical, and then they found this out, and now it's being monitored, and the prognosis is very, very good. So something to consider. That's all I'll tell you. Mike Lupica is going to join us at 2:30, 1-800-919-3776. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Ryan in East Setauket. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, how you doing, Michael? Big fan, first-time caller. My dad and I are huge fans, so thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you, man.
I wanted to appreciate. Thank you. I wanted to ask what you think the actual potential of this J.J. McCarthy trade is, because to me, like, I would love to see J.J. McCarthy as a Giant, but he wasn't worth the 6th pick last year.
Yep.
He was a 10th pick. Why would we trade the 3rd pick now for J.J. McCarthy, who to me should be less valued than the 10th pick last year? He didn't play for a whole year. He had a huge major injury. So I don't see why the Giants would actually trade their first-round pick for him.
Ryan, I think we're in lockstep. This is the way I look at it. If I could get J.J. McCarthy, if I'm the Giants, and let's say they saw something in him, but they didn't think it was worth the 6th pick last year, if I could get J.J. McCarthy for a 2nd rounder, maybe even I could push it to a 3rd, yeah, absolutely. That's a no-brainer. But with Mel saying, like, without any kind of hesitancy at all, that he would definitely trade the 3rd pick in the 1st round for J.J. McCarthy, wow, that kind of startled me. Although other experts that, I try to read everything, that if J.J. McCarthy was coming out of the draft this year, he'd be the 1st pick in the draft. He'd be the 1st quarterback taken. He would be taken in front of Sanders and Ward. He would. I don't know if that's the case. But as Rob just said, he just had a serious knee injury and serious surgery. So I'm not quite sure I'd give up. No, let me be definitive. I'm not giving up the 3rd pick in the 1st round for a guy that I could have taken with the 6th pick in the 1st round last year. And they didn't think he was worth it then when they needed a quarterback more than they needed a wide receiver. They did. So I'm giving up the 3rd pick when, I don't know what the Giants are thinking. I don't know. You got Travis Hunter there that could do 2 things for you. And I'm just throwing out a name. So there are other players that might be able to help you. There are other quarterbacks out there as well. I'd be more apt to maybe take a chance on Sam Darnold. More of a sure thing. But it's an interesting move by the Vikings because they did put Daniel Jones on the active list for the playoffs. So they obviously like what they see, as he's been watching. And they put him on the active list, which means that they'll get a draft pick if he does leave. Kind of a smart move by their front office. But again, for those that just tuned in, on Sportsmanlike this morning, Mel Kiper, without hesitation, said, yes, I would give up the 3rd pick if I'm the Giants to get J.J. McCarthy. And I think that's a little bit of an overreach. And to be honest with you all, J.J. McCarthy didn't throw that much under Harbaugh with Michigan last year. He's a tough guy. He's a smart player and all that, but maybe they saw stuff in the combine, but the Giants didn't see enough to take him with the 6th pick when they desperately wanted a quarterback. Now so much has changed where he hasn't taken a snap in the regular season that you're going to sacrifice a number 3 first-round pick? I don't think so. Lupic is next. It may be the offseason, but every season is Bigelow tea season. Now, I'm picky about what I drink, especially on days I have a show. One of the first things I do each day is reach for a mug full of Bigelow tea. I love the different flavor options, and it's perfect for someone who makes his living behind a microphone. You want to know what keeps me going? Look no further than my cup of Bigelow tea next to me in the studio. So grab a mug full of your favorite Bigelow tea and tea proudly. Bigelow tea, the official hot tea of the New York Yankees.
Grainger knows space at your facility is limited. As a maintenance specialist, you only have so many spots for backup products in your inventory roster, which means space on your bench comes at a premium. Well, when it comes to breadth and depth, Grainger's got you covered. They've got over 1 million industrial-grade products. Plus, fast delivery helps reduce the inventory you need to keep on hand, freeing up space and capital while giving your operation a winning edge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by a local branch.
Harry Douglas here, and if you're constantly on the go like I am, then earbuds are a priority. That's why you need Technique's new noise-canceling AZ80s. Like you, these buds work as hard as they play. You'll get Technique's legendary high-res audio, along with state-of-the-art noise cancellation, so you can stay in your zone. Visit us.techniques.com/sports to shop for AZ80s now. That's us.technics.com/sports.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, a couple of notes before we get to Mike. Diana Rossini of The Athletic is reporting that according to sources, Bill Belichick has no plans to return to the NFL. His sole focus is on coaching North Carolina. We told you earlier, Tom Pelissero is reporting that teams have reached out to Belichick about their coaching vacancy. And speaking of coaching vacancies, the Jets requested an interview with Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. So there we are with that. So every Wednesday at this time, we're going to talk to the Daily News columnist. You can read him at MLB.com, a great author as well, Mike Lupica, and he joins us now on the K Show. Hi, Mike.
Happy New Year, Michael.
Same to you. Did you have a good holiday?
We had a great holiday, except we all came back. We went to Connecticut to be with the grandkids, and so the whole family was up in Connecticut. And I don't know if you know how cold it was that week, and we all got the cold that the whole world has.
Oh no!
And one little kid gets a runny nose, and he becomes patient zero.
And then you can't stay away from him because you want to be there to see him, and then boom, you get it.
Yeah, no, and he's fine and perfect, and we had a blast, and our youngest boy just got engaged, so things are good.
Oh, congratulations! I didn't know that, but
except my Zach lives in Southern California and has been sending us these hideous pictures of what's going on there, and it's not reached where they live, but it's close enough to have gotten his attention the way it's gotten the attention of the whole country.
So scary. So let's talk about more mundane things now, like sports. Did you think the Giants did the right thing, Mike?
Oh Michael, it's hard for me to justify bringing back the general manager. And I completely understand why John did what he did. And as an executive had told me a couple of weeks ago when I wrote about this situation, he was in a brutal situation because there was no thing that he was going to do other than fire both these guys who was going to make his fan base happy. But here's my question for you, Michael, and maybe you have addressed this in the last couple of days. John says he's about to run out of patience, okay?
Yep.
What do you think it would take for him to finally run out of patience if this season didn't make him run out of patience?
And also, a part of that concerns me, Mike, you're about to run out of patience. You can't bring these guys back and say it's just 1 year and then let them bring a quarterback in. You've got to give them a couple of years. If you really believe in them, believe in them.
Yeah, I listen, it's been explained to me by people who know the league better than I that Shane has done a good job of rebuilding the infrastructure, the scouting system in particular. But somebody has to show me, other than Malik Neighbors, really, what this great draft that I hear about, where was the proof of that on the field this year? And, we've talked about this. I'm not in the firing business. I don't want to be the guy in the media firing people. I mean, it's like a default position. So I like John. I like Brian Dable. I don't know Shane. I like Brian Dable. But this idea that he all the credit he gets for Josh Allen. Well, wait a minute. Mike, you could have been Josh Allen's offensive coordinator. And now I see, they're justifying this by what the work he did with Tua and Jalen Hurts. I'm thinking, no. When you look at your program, do you believe that within the next couple of years they can get this thing back up and running? And I don't see it on the field, Michael. And you got to tell me who their quarterback is going to be. Somebody brought up Kirk Cousins the other day, and I said, I'm old enough to know that he'd be like Roman Gabriel 2.0, or Norm Snead. These are names out of the Wayback Machine, but they're not going to get Cam Ward, who I think is going to be the guy that goes number one. I'm not even sure how good Shedeur Sanders is. So if they're not going to draft one, where is the quarterback going to come from?
And also, Mike, the quarterback whisperer, he was whispering in Daniel Jones's ear, and he didn't do anything.
No, I mean, the one good thing on Brian's resume is he made the playoffs with Daniel Jones.
Right.
He won a playoff game with Daniel Jones. But what we have seen over the last 2 years, and especially this year, to me, is the low point in the 100-year history of the New York Giants. And that second Super Bowl, Michael, it seems like it was 113 years ago.
Yep.
And I wrote this the other day, Mike. The Giants still like to think of themselves as an elite franchise. They're not. They have an elite name. They were an elite franchise when they were winning Super Bowls against Belichick and Brady and them. But this, to me, was the single lowest point. And you tell me what they're going to do between now and next September to make themselves significant again in the NFC East.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't have an answer for that. And one other curious thing that John said was, he was asked, is your roster better than it was when Shane got here? He said it would be hard to make that argument. Then what are you hanging your hat on? So 3 years, the roster has not improved?
On the same day that John said he was running out of patience, what did he do? He signed up for more patience.
Right.
Except you're right, Mike. How much patience is there when it's clear they're both on a 1-year leash?
Yep.
It's so counterintuitive what he did. You know what he did, Mike? And this is what I thought. And again, I've known this guy forever. I loved his father. His mother was one of the great ladies I have ever met in sports. Ann Mara was one of the great people, okay? He sort of tried to look decisive by being completely indecisive. That's a hard tightrope to walk.
All right, so Mike, what's your take on possibly Rex coming back?
Oh, I think it would be a mistake. I kind of enjoyed having Rex around, and he can hang his hat on the fact that he is the last coach that did anything here. And he did a good job here. Mike, I used to watch Rex, and one of the things he's been talking about is the way he connects with players. I believe that's a real thing. I used to love, in the hour before the game, looking down on the field, and nobody loved being there more than he did. And, Mike, he would go from player to player to player to player. I'm not saying he's the only coach that did this, but he loved that world. But oh my God, it's been nearly a decade, and I know that there have been examples. Dick Vermeil, I guess, is the one that comes to mind, of guys who were away and came back and did something. Okay, but I think that this would be not just nostalgia, but there would be an element of nostalgia for the sideshow that we used to get from him too, and. I mean, there's been a level of silliness that we've come to expect from him. I don't know if I saw him on television the other day wearing a green suit. Did you see that?
Yes.
I think it's either the day before his interview or the day of his interview. No, I think going back, Mike, going back into the past for a team that has this kind of past, talk about being counterintuitive. That would be it.
I'm wondering, sports has changed a lot in the time that we've known each other. But do you have a problem with Rex being so thirsty about this job, like openly campaigning for it? You don't?
No. No, I don't. If he's not feeling any shame about basically walking around, he could have. It's like he was walking. I guess the interview was in Florida at Woody's place. Okay, so it's like he was walking up and down South Ocean Boulevard with one of those sandwich boards saying, "Please pick me." Okay. If he's not embarrassed to do that, I feel no need to be embarrassed for him. I actually think he's pretty good on television. And
he's great.
But he's desperate to get back into the game. I think he was desperate to be the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. I think he misses the action. He's obviously not too old. If Bill Belichick can go coach Carolina at the age of 72 or 73, whatever he is, I just don't see the way the game has changed, and in front offices, on the field, I'm not sure. And here's the other thing, Michael, and I know a lot of the guys they're talking to are defensive coaches, okay? And I love Spags. Steve Spagnuolo, I hope, gets another chance because he's done a superb job. He's one of the best people I've met in pro football. But I'm not sure the Jets at this point in time can hire another defensive coach. They've got to get this right. They've got, and there's no reason for anybody to think that Woody will get this right, Michael. I mean, I wrote in the Daily News the other day. It's like he left owner school too early. It's just he wasn't able to graduate. In fact, I think you look this up. At owner school, I think he was kept back like 2 different times. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm here, Michael. And so I have no confidence that he's going to make the right choice. I saw all those things. It sounded like he was reading from a script the other day when he talked to the New York Post. It all sounded great, but none of that stuff has he ever put into practice. And he's still living in this bubble, this fantasy world where maybe it's inferred that maybe things would have been different if he hadn't been the ambassador to the court of St. James. Well, yeah, right.
He also said something in that interview with Brian Costello that I talked about it the other day. It infuriated me. Do you regret firing Saleh after 2 and 3? No regrets. And I remember Buck Showalter once told me, if a manager says I have no regrets about making a move that didn't work out, then they're out of their mind. How could you not have regrets? Right. The team is just cratered after that, Mike.
Michael, how can Joe Shea not have a regret about signing Daniel Jones to that contract? He said the same damn thing about a different subject the other day. It's so disingenuous at best and phony and probably in reality for him to suggest that he didn't do that because he thought it was going to give the team a spark. That's exactly why he did it. And the opposite happened. The exact opposite happened. That season, for all intents and purposes, and again, Mike, we've talked about this. I'm not saying that Bob Saleh was Vince Lombardi. He wasn't, okay? We know what his record was there. But they were playing pretty good defense when he left, and I think Woody, he panicked. He panicked, and it's what everybody feared, that he'd be embarrassed that they lost in England where he'd been an ambassador, okay? And Mike, it's not like they got humiliated by the Vikings that day.
No.
Okay?
And they were about to play the Bills for first place.
Right. If the quarterback doesn't short arm a pass at the end, okay, the way he would then turn around and short arm a big pass at the end against the Bills, the whole season goes completely differently. But he panicked, and then down the rabbit hole they went, and we saw what happened. And the only day that they looked like a real team was on the last day of the season, other than, I don't even count the Jaguars game, went against a Dolphins team, playing with a backup quarterback, knowing they were out of the playoffs at halftime because the Broncos were putting it on the Chiefs.
I'm curious, Mike, have you watched the Rodgers documentary? I think the name is Enema. Have you watched it?
No. No, Michael. The only way I'd watch it is if I lost a bet, okay? No, Michael. I think you're in line with me on this, okay? This fascination with Aaron Rodgers completely baffles me, okay? We both met a lot of loopy guys, okay, in sports. He's another one. We've both met a lot of athletes who think that they're smarter than they are. That's part of it, okay? We're probably smarter than we think they are. But this fascination, like this guy ought to be in a beer commercial as the most interesting man in the world, has baffled me from the start. Okay? He's got cockeyed ideas about vaccines. He's got cockeyed ideas about a lot of things. And having now seen him in New York for a couple of years, Mike, I can understand better that it might not just have been bad luck, that a guy with his talent and who had the talent around him in Green Bay only won one Super Bowl.
I hear you. Mike, this was great. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Michael, I will be here. I will be at my post, and I look forward to it. I wish you all the best in your new time slot, but you've done well in every time slot and venue you've ever had, so you're going to do just fine.
Thank you, my friend. Happy New Year again.
Okay, pal. Bye-bye.
All right. That is Mike Lupica, 1-800-919-3776. So you know at 3 o'clock, the great show, Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg takes over. They're on for 4 hours, so you'd have to listen to them. They've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. But I want to talk to you now. We said at the beginning of the show, we want to take a lot more phone calls than we've ever taken before. I want to interact with you. This show is yours, too. It's got my name on it, but it's your show as well. For these 2 hours, we are in concert on this. So 1-800-919-3776, a big buffet that we've put out there, things that we've talked about. Now you could comment and opine on them as well. It's the K Show, leading to Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg right here on 880 ESPN.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Smith's for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Smith's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
He's been here a long time, and he's going to be here even longer.
Catch the show on demand whenever you want. Just subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Adam Schefter reporting that Ben Johnson, the great offensive coordinator with the Lions, is going to interview with the Patriots. So everybody thinks the Patriots are definitely going to, sign Vrabel, but Ben Johnson will interview with the Patriots. One quick thing, while we were on the air, the Mets had a Zoom conference with David Wright. He's going to have his number 5 retired. Very well deserved. He, along with Mattingly, are two guys that you play the what-if game. What if they had stayed healthy? And I think they both would have ended up in the Hall of Fame. Both are terrific guys, great representatives of their organization. So David Wright will get number 5 retired. And I think that Steve Cohen and Alex Cohen have done the right thing, retiring the numbers, honoring the history of the Mets. But I do wonder, after 5, who's next? Who have they missed? Think about that for tomorrow, everybody. Who have they missed? I can't come up with who the next one is going to be. I mean, does Jacob deGrom get it when he retires? Was he there long enough? Not quite sure. Maybe after 15 years, Soto gets it. But right now, David Wright's 5. I don't know if anybody is lined up for the next one. Let's go to Barry in Astoria. Barry.
Hey, Michael, what's going on? How are you?
Good. How you doing, Barry?
We're good. I just want to come back to that whole Nick Cronin UCLA situation because, frankly, I wish that this happened more in college sports nowadays.
So do I.
I mean, you always make the parallels to the business world. If we're going to be paying these kids, we should be able to sit there and tell them what they're doing wrong, what they need to improve on, and how they need to take things seriously. I think this is the approach that needs to be taken going forward in the new NIL era in both college football and college basketball.
But let me bat this back at you, Barry. I hear what you're saying, and I essentially agree with you. But it has nothing to do with college, just the way people are built now. Even in professional sports where people are making $20, $40 million a year, you're not allowed to criticize them. You're just not. And I think that it's a lost art. I think if you do it the right way, it can be a motivating factor. But coaches and managers are afraid to do it. I really do. I think they're afraid to do it. So what Mick Cronin did, if you haven't heard, he just destroyed his team. Said they're pretty much delusional. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Let's go to Ira in Staten Island. Ira.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Definitely good. Really enjoying you in the new slot.
Thanks.
I have to tell you, I'm a little insulted that either you or I haven't got added to the list, because it seems like everybody in the world's getting an interview for this head coaching job.
It's amazing, right? At least they're doing their due diligence. Let's look at it that way.
No, I give them a lot of credit, and I'll throw this out there. Would not be shocked at the end of the day that if Mike Tannenbaum ends up being the general manager. It wouldn't shock me at all. I think it's, the odds are slim, but I think at the end of this whole process, I could see Woody turning around and saying, Mike, you know what? I feel most confident in you as a GM running the organization, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mike takes it.
You know what? That would be an interesting twist. Tannenbaum had a lot of success. Then he was let go on the Howard Idzik, which was obviously an awful, awful move. And Idzik and Rex were like oil and vinegar, or vinegar and water, whatever doesn't mix, oil and water. But that would be weird. I mean, Mike Tannenbaum was the one bringing in all of these candidates to interview for the job. So what a pivot it would be if Mike got the job. Let's go to Jav in Clifton. What's up, Jav?
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. So I had a question about the Yankees offseason. So, I think that for the most part, they did have done a pretty good job who they brought in. Who do you think they should be targeting the remaining? Like, I know they need a second baseman or a third baseman and probably another reliever. I keep hearing about Luis Arias from San Diego. Granted his defense is sketchy. Who do you think is that? You think that's a smart move? Do you think they should be targeting somebody with a better defense?
Well, I mean, they are trying to improve their defense. So, I mean, Arias is an interesting candidate because they don't have a leadoff hitter either. So the perfect thing for them would be to get a second baseman who could be a leadoff hitter. I mean, you want a guy who's on base a lot when Judge comes up, when Bellinger comes up, when Goldschmidt comes up. I don't know if Volpe is that, because Volpe had an under 300 on-base percentage last year. That's concerning. Do you want him to lead off again? And once you drop him out of the leadoff spot, he definitely played better. So if you can get a second baseman that could lead off, but Arias is going to be a negative defensively, and you ask what else they could do, I think they need a lefty reliever in the bullpen. But otherwise, I think they've had a great pivot after not signing Soto. I really do. I mean, you could actually make the argument, overall, they're a better team. And that's hard, losing a transformative player like Soto and saying, okay, we might be a better team. Make that team in quotes. But it's hard to say they're a better squad without a great player like Soto. But they have certainly put it into the argument that they could be. They could be. Getting Fried and Bellinger and Goldschmidt. I mean, they did some heavy lifting. They really did. I think they did a very, very good job. And let's not forget Devin Williams. So they got a top-flight closer. Now you could put Luke Weaver as a setup guy, an all-everything guy, and their bullpen might be better. But I think they need a lefty reliever, and they need a second baseman that could lead off, preferably a guy that could pick it as well. Another fun 2 hours. Every show, I leave the show saying, wow, there's more in me. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing because we're back again tomorrow at 1. But you do not change the dial. That's not even an option because the only thing you do now is stay right where you are and you consume the glorious Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. And that's coming up right after this. And in the words of Billy Joel, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. I'm afraid it's time for goodbye again. See everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Michael K. Show podcast.
You know what? Check yourself.
Hear more from Michael K. weekdays at 1 on 880 ESPN.
Suck it up and like it.
The ESPN New York app and your smart speakers.